Let's see. Let's go with Paul in New York. You are grieving. Is that correct?
Hi, Paul.
Yes. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Paul.
Good. How are you?
It could be better. I lost my mother earlier this morning, and
I'm sorry.
it hit me hard as it would anybody else. And the show has really done a lot for me. I've learned a lot, and you guys have really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And my mother was a devoted Christian really all her life, and one of the things I'm struggling with, guys, is I'm trying to discern whether or not I did my mother a service or disservice by incorporating the ideologies of atheism. Towards the end, she was
incorporating before you go off, incorporating them into what? An argument with her, or a eulogy, or what?
Well, yeah, I guess posing an argument that there's, that God doesn't exist, or at least, the Christian God. I don't believe any God exists.
Mm-hmm.
But now with her passing, I'm feeling a tremendous amount of guilt. Not shame or guilt that I'm an atheist, but I feel like I stole her joy. And although I know how much Christianity and other faith-based religions can build a person up and also strip them of everything, there's still a lot of people out there that experience a tremendous amount of joy and happiness through religion. And again, that's why I asked you guys, or tell you guys, that I'm having a really hard time discerning where, as atheists, where do we draw the line, especially with, people that are close to us, especially our loved ones, where, are we maybe, or at least me, maybe a little hypocritical at times, where we're trying to bring people out of religion, especially organized religion, for happiness and joy and freedom. But yet, if we, deprive them of the one thing that maybe they're holding on to, the one thing, whether it's the Christian God or a rock or anything that they want to deify, should there be a line? Is there a line? And should there be a line that we don't cross to spare their feelings and to spare what they're holding on to, whether we agree with their views or not? Because
I don't know that there's a hard and fast rule there. It is true that the religions sometimes give people comfort. I wanted to make the point that sometimes religions can terrify people too. And I think that people who are on their deathbed might very well be terrified of where they're going to go and whether they're going to end up in hell or not, and whether they, did the right, said the prayer the right way and these sorts of things. And there's a lot of doubts and insecurities associated with that religion. And the atheist message on death might simply be, we don't have any evidence for an afterlife, and we don't have any evidence that you're going to exist after we die, and you're not going to be suffering anymore. And that might be very comforting for a lot of folks, especially who are in pain. So I don't know that you've necessarily stolen anything from your mother.
Can I ask what your last experience was with her on this subject?
Well, she was really leaning towards atheism.
Okay.
At least that's what she portrayed. I mean, she's always carried some resentment towards the Christian God, and I think there were times that she would placate me and tell me that she was, really, considering denouncing him and stuff like that. But this last round of trying to convince her to come to the other side, if you will, I think it was more heartfelt. But again, when somebody passes away, especially a parent, and some of the last things that you said to them were, there is no God, and if there is a God, this God isn't of love. There is no afterlife. you tend to think, what the hell are they thinking on their deathbed? Did I rob them of? I know, Don, you said I didn't, and it's going to take me, time to process that I didn't, and hopefully I do. But I'm really trying to establish a boundary where, taking people's feelings into consideration, worldwide, that, people near and dear to us, we might not want to overly stress or, possibly take any happiness away from them, especially when they're close to the end.
I don't know. I see it a little differently. I see it that, if you're in a position where you're sort of arguing with somebody who is dying and potentially making their last hours confrontational, I can see some honest concerns with that, but you had what I believe was an honest interaction with your mother about an important topic. And I don't think you should apologize for that. I think that that's a perfectly valid thing to do. People who are dying are often very concerned about death and what's going to happen to them. What, is there an afterlife and will it be painful? These sorts of questions. I lost my husband about 2 years ago.
Sorry.
And yeah, it's hard. And, I took care of him through his death and I have a laundry list of regrets, little things that I wish I had done differently or wish I had done for him. And I would say that's just par for the course. I would say that everybody who has somebody close to them die has a handful of those things, and try to learn from them, try to come up with some better rules for yourself, talk it out with folks, which is what you're doing. So you're on the right course, I think.
Yeah.
And we're all human and we're all just doing the best we can, and it's a difficult circumstance.
Can I add?
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to offer a little bit of my perspective, if that's okay with you.
Please do.
Sure, yeah.
So I recently cut off my parents, and so in a way I've lost them as recently as well. Personally, I would be more concerned about your mother's death if the last time that you had talked to her had been like a shouting match, if it had been angry or just less. You said that it seemed like she was coming a little bit more towards atheism, right? Right. So it seems like she was starting to use her brain. She was starting to exercise the idea that she might be wrong about this, and she was headed in the same direction that you were. And do you regret where you are now?
No, not at all. But the thing is, I think maybe the question is, and I'm sorry for your loss, Don. What is more of a disservice? Not telling someone about atheism to spare them their feelings or whatever it might be, or discussing it with them with the possibility that they can lose all hope, because we know they're faith-driven. What is the true disservice there?
I think that depends.
Well, we argue with theists all the time on this show, and we have yet to change anybody's mind immediately. This is a long process.
Rightfully so. But when I'm thinking about close family members, and when I think about if they're really indoctrinated, and it really would probably terrify them at the moment about the idea of losing that God, and they were on their deathbed, I mean, I might hold back a little bit, but I wouldn't blame yourself for introducing the concept to her, because it seemed like she kind of took to it. It didn't seem like she was angry about it. It didn't seem like she was hurt by it in this particular situation. But at the same time, it's like if she did, she's not in any pain anymore. And it would have been nice. Yeah. It would have been nice if she had the opportunity and the time to go all the way and fully experience this life. But it is what it is,
Yeah, Yeah, my major concern towards the end was I just didn't want her to rely on faith and faith alone. I mean, she had stage 4 colon cancer, and maybe I should have refrained, maybe not. I don't know. I mean, it's just I didn't want her going into this approach to death with just saying God's going to save me. God's going to save me, and I was really trying to talk sense her. However, what I will admit. And to everyone that's listening, I've admitted it to my wife and to myself, and maybe someone out there can relate and perhaps think things over a little bit. Am I an atheist because I hate God so much? I know that's a total contradiction right there. Well, you can't be an atheist if you hate God because it means you believe in God. But how many of us have turned to atheism because of a hatred towards a God, whether it be the Christian God or Allah? And, I got to say, I think my hatred maybe supersedes my belief that there isn't a God,
I can
and if
understand that.
anyone can relate, yeah. And,
I can understand.
Just being honest. And if anyone can relate to that, I would beg them to be sure before you possibly, I'm not going to say steal someone's joy, but before you affect them, because religion has an incredible way of affecting us positively and negatively, depending on who you are. And we as atheists have that same power.
I think atheism does a better job of that.
Yeah, I
that's
agree.
been my experience so far.
I'm happy. Yes, I am. But I have to be totally honest with myself, and hopefully there's other people out there that can relate and say, yeah, maybe it is just a hatred more than a total disbelief.
Well, I think it is.
If you're going to approach someone about atheistic views, be sure you're just not doing it out of blasphemy.
Totally.
Not just.
I agree. Yeah.
Totally.
Examining your motivations is very important.
Absolutely.
And if you come to a conversation with an agenda,
people can sense that.
It's good to understand where that's coming from and what you hope to get out of it. It is very difficult to sort of talk somebody out of theism. So you may be overestimating the effect you had on your mother. Yeah. I'm sorry to say.
Right.
Right. But in general, personally, I feel like a lot of religious belief does harm in this world, and I want to try to mitigate that harm. That's my agenda, in often in talking with theists and such. If you have some emotional stuff there, that might be worth working through, either individually or in a support group or something, because I don't think you're going to be able to have very effective conversations until you kind of work through that.
I'd say work on yourself before you try to work on anyone else. Absolutely.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more with that, and I'm glad you guys are really being straightforward with me on that. And Don, you said you're mitigating religion to bring people to happiness and stuff like that. And I think what I've been doing is mitigating out of hatred, and I can admit that.
Good.
Okay.
That's really admirable that you can admit that.
That's good.
Well, it's something I have to process, and like you said, work on myself. And maybe this wasn't just a question that I had for you guys, but also a message that if anyone else is out there doing the same thing, it's not necessarily okay, but it's not something that we should also destroy ourselves over, but definitely approach it and question your values and question why you're really trying to convert someone,
Absolutely.
so to speak. And I think I'm not the only one that's out there.
Right.
Thank you for sharing that.
Done that.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, thank you guys.
Paul, thank you for your call. I'm sorry
Paul,
for your loss.
I really hope things get better, and I hope that you're doing